Welcome to Betrayal Trauma Recovery. I'm Anne. It's summer, and I remember being so excited, thinking my marriage would improve as we spent quality time together on that road trip, our family reunion. If you end up having the same experience I did, where vacations left me feeling more hopeless and scared because I found out on one of those trips that my husband was using explicit material and lying to me about it. We're here for you every day, all summer long. You don't have to schedule an appointment or wait. You can hop on one of our daily group sessions from anywhere. We're an empathetic team of betrayal trauma professionals, and we can help you right away. Our daily group session support is the safest space for women to focus on their healing without fear of being traumatized by a therapist or clergy who might seem to think that you're part of the problem. You're not, and you're not alone. If you're ready to join a community of women who truly understand, check out our group session schedule at btr.org/group. We'd love to see you today. And if this podcast has been helpful to you, subscribing and leaving a 5-star review is the best way to help other women find it. Follow on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Together we can reach every woman who needs to hear this. It's just me today. I'm going to talk about the 4 stages of betrayal trauma. Number 1 is confusion. This is when he's lying to you. There's some type of infidelity, secret pornography use or cheating, for example, but you don't know about it. During this phase, women usually feel like something's off. They might go to couple therapy. They might try reading their scriptures more, praying. They're abuse victims, but they don't know. The second stage of betrayal trauma is discovering that he's lied to you. Now you're going to couple therapy or pornography addiction, recovery therapy, or clergy, knowing that he's lied to you, knowing about the infidelity. This stage is difficult because you're doing the right thing. You're humble and you know that you're not an expert at everything, and so you're going to professionals to try to get help. Stage 3 of the betrayal trauma is getting the right education. You find betrayal trauma recovery, or you start reading books about abuse. You read Men Who Hate Women by Laura Bates, for example. You read The Woman They Could Not Silence. And you start understanding the systemic, societal, and institutional misogyny and why it's so difficult to get the right kind of education about this type of abuse and so hard to get the right kind of help. And stage 4 is safety. We haven't done anything wrong, and there's nothing wrong with us. We don't need therapy. We don't need to fix our character defects, but we do need safety. That's where the Living Free workshop comes in, because safety is the treatment. Women see that once they're emotionally and psychologically safe, their betrayal trauma symptoms almost completely disappear. I started podcasting in 2016, a really long time ago. If you look at the podcast feed, it doesn't go back that far. And the reason it doesn't go back that far is when I first started podcasting, I was learning in real time and sharing my experience of attempting to get to safety. As I was studying, I also did over 300 long-form interviews with betrayal trauma victims, both on the podcast and in person. Through doing that, I began to see very clear patterns. And I was also running my very own experiments, seeing what worked and what didn't in my own life, and seeing what was working and not working in other women's situations. After discovering the Living Free strategies, I actually did get to safety. And then I realized that many of these very, very old recordings also had incorrect information, theories or principles that I was testing through trial and error that I now know do not work. I didn't want to hurt any woman, so I removed a lot of that incorrect information. But today I'm going to share several recordings from long ago when I was still trying to learn how to apply the safety principles. You'll hear a section where I talk about helping my son visualize his emotions. And those same types of visualizations are the pattern I later used to write the BTR meditation workshop that I used on myself to help me heal, and has since helped so many other women heal from the inside out. You can find both workshops at btr.org/workshops. As you listen to these old recordings, you'll hear the seeds of all of the services we have here at BTR being planted. And the rest of this episode is snippets from those old recordings.
After 7 years of attempting to, quote unquote, help my husband with his anger problems and his pornography addiction, he sprained my fingers and pushed me against the kitchen cabinets during an argument. He was arrested for domestic violence. The judge gave him a no contact order, which is a protective order. And that was the first time I'd ever conceived that he really was an abusive person. I waited, hoping for him to take accountability, to change, to truly repent, and to come back home to us for 9 months. And he decided to file for divorce. During that 9 months, I prayed and prayed and prayed. And the only answer that I received was to start a podcast, which is how this podcast started. I used to go by the name Anon. Ann Blythe is not my real name. My friend had a Facebook account with the name Ann Blythe, named after Ann Blythe from Anne of Green Gables. I ended up adopting that name and that Facebook account to represent all of us, because my story is the universal story. The details might be a little bit different, but we all go through a period of trying to, quote unquote, help our husbands or support him. I am an avid gardener. I have 9 fruit trees, 5 12x2 garden boxes, a huge section of my garden in my front yard where I grow self-proclaimed prize-winning pumpkins. On Monday, my 5-year-old son and I planted the corn. It was such a sweet time. I dug the hole and he put the seed in, and the obvious symbolism of faith that it takes to plant this seed that is so small, and hope that in a few months we're going to have an 8-foot stalk with delicious corn on it. All my garlic is growing great, and I planted that in the fall. So planting a little bulb that the next year will turn into the most delicious, rich, buttery garlic. It's called Romanian Red, and it's amazing, and you can't get it at the store. In my front yard, I have irises and tiger lilies and canna lilies and salvia, every kind of beautiful perennial you can imagine. Every year they get better and bigger and more beautiful. It's been almost 3 years since my ex's arrest. And back then, my front yard and all the perennials were kind of sad. It was like 3 irises that came up. But now they're gorgeous. Everyone comments on how beautiful my garden is. I didn't know that my garden would be so beautiful, but I had faith that it would be. And I dug things up and I split plants and I moved things around and had faith that my hard work would pay off, and it has. I have not yet seen the hard work pay off with my setting boundaries. My life is still really hard. I'm a single mom of 3 kids. Life is hard every day. It's hard to get dinner on the table. It's hard to keep the house clean. It's really stressful and very overwhelming. There are days when I sit on the couch and stare into space and then end up crying because I'm really overwhelmed. I'm still very nervous about the future. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if my garden is any indication, as I stand there, especially my front yard with all the beautiful perennial flowers, I'm like, this feels safe and this feels secure. And guess what else? It's beautiful. I have faith that my life will be beautiful like that. My garden has evolved to be something amazing. Maybe I will evolve to be something amazing someday. Right now, it just seems like I'm just still like digging around in the dirt with nothing to show for it. Talk about late bloomer. I'm like the world's latest bloomer. But maybe when I do, I'll be like that big, beautiful iris. I want to talk about nightmares for a minute. My ex was supposedly in recovery, but I was still having nightmares. In the dreams, I was a single mom and I knew I needed a husband. So I was like, there was that one guy. I remember him. He was kind of nice. Where is he now? Why isn't he here? And then I would try and find him. And then I would find him and he would be like kind of mean to me and brush me off. That was the nightmare. I had different forms of that all the time. And I remember I would put my hand over on him and touch him and be like, oh, good. It was just a dream. Whew, like every night. And then I would tell him about it. And I would say, I'm having these nightmares. I don't know what's wrong with me. Everything seems to be fine with us. One night when I was lying in bed right next to him, I said, I've been having these nightmares. I really feel like something bad's going to happen. And I didn't pause to let him speak. I said, yeah, but it's just crazy. It must just be me. I'm still
mentally messed up. Well, he never said anything about it. But now that I look back, he not only didn't say anything and I talked myself out of it, but he also didn't try and comfort me. There was a woman I talked to recently. She said, I'm having nightmares almost every night, but I wake up and I look at him and everything's fine. And I said, when you tell him about your nightmares, how far away is he? Is he standing more than 4 feet away from you, looking at you, but not really responding? She started crying. She said, that's exactly what's happening. I said, I'm not sure what's going on, but an empathetic, caring, connected person would not be 4 or 5 feet away from you in that situation. They would be giving you a hug. They'd be saying, I'm so sorry that you're having these nightmares. I love you. I care about you. Is there anything I can do? Something, some kind of connecting, interacting thing. But this standing like 4 or 5 feet away with this blank stare on your face, like a deer in the headlights. And more as I hear these stories of women who have these nightmares and then, months later they find out that something really was going on, even though in their waking hours, it seemed like everything was fine. Not to say that everyone who has a nightmare, her husband is lying, because thinking that my husband was in recovery when he was not. He was lying to me and manipulating me and having those dreams. Now I see an indicator of a warning to me. Now that I'm disconnected from him, I rarely have those nightmares anymore. Rarely. I have a friend whose husband has labeled her borderline and kept taking her in to get help. Her husband had been lying to her and gaslighting her, and he had a double life sexual addiction going on. And this was a way for him to avoid anyone looking at him and make her crazy. There's no way to actually recover if you're still being abused like this. This friend of mine, she has now separated herself from her abusive spouse, and her borderline symptoms, they're gone. Now she's having trauma symptoms. I have an unnamed autoimmune disorder. It's not lupus. It's not arthritis. I've been trying to get a diagnosis for a long time. I get super sleepy and all of my joints hurt really bad. So it has a lot of the same characteristics of these autoimmune diseases. So the doctors are like, yep, you have one. We don't know what it is. It's unnamed. And we should call it the Betrayal Trauma autoimmune disorder. I have spent so much time and money going to therapists, but not getting help for my trauma symptoms. I'm paying them to sit there in their office and educate them about betrayal trauma. There was one therapist, it was like 3 months after my husband's arrest. I was trying to convince her my husband was abusive. It was crazy. Wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm not going to her anymore. And I think she was confused because I didn't want to divorce. So she was like, you're saying your husband's abusive, but you don't want to get a divorce? Like, I don't know how to help you. Yes, he is abusive. And yes, I don't want to get a divorce. And yes, I need help. Like, can you accept me where I am? And she had no idea how to help me. Part of my trauma symptoms were that I found myself not hearing my children when they were talking to me, and I wasn't doing anything else. So I was available and ready and willing to talk to them, but just didn't hear them until they had said my name a few times. And then I was like, oh, yeah, what is it? So zoning out. I found myself doing that frequently. And so if I'm having a hard time concentrating, I feel the couch, maybe feel the couch fabric, maybe even touch my child's arm, something so that I can reconnect with the present moment. I actually sat on the couch with my 5-year-old son and we just sat there for like probably a half hour. And he just kind of was spouting off. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I was listening to him. I was acknowledging him. I was looking him in the eyes. Then I was like, let's have a stare contest. And we just looked at each other and smiled for a while. And it was just that. I thought, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. Okay, I'm going to be in the here and now with my daughter and I'll be like, I'm available to you. That's, I think, my biggest hurdle is I've sat here with her for 4 minutes and this is kind of boring and I really need to do the dishes. That's what I'm struggling with the most right now. When I stop and sit down and stare at my daughter, I think, how long do I have to do this for? But I want to get better at it and more practiced until that is what I crave, those quiet moments with my children and living in that moment with a peace and stillness. And also my soul needs that every day. We need a period of time of quiet, both spending time with ourselves in a quiet place and spending time with the people that we love. I've actually been doing visualization with my son every night about his emotions and his anger and where he's going to put it. One of the things we imagined was that he put all of his feelings about how he doesn't want to do his schoolwork. Like, I don't want to do my work. I hate doing schoolwork, that sort of thing, in a box. And then if he was holding that box, could he pick up his pencil to do his schoolwork? And he was like, no, I can't. And so I said, well, where do you want to put the box? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to put it over here. And then he was like, oh, Mom, I can do my assignment now. And he has improved significantly in his schoolwork. So using meditation or visualization as a tool is an option for healing, because I have used visualization before to be able to connect with my children. Since that time, of course, I haven't solved all of my problems, but in relation to my abusive ex-husband who abused me post-divorce for 8 years, I'm completely delivered from him, and so are my children. And I did this through the Living Free strategies. To learn more, go to btr.org/livingfree. I spent so much time and effort putting everything that I learned over the years into that workshop, applying those strategies, and having those strategies deliver us was for sure the miracle that I had been praying for. And I hope that you find all the strategies to be the miracle that you've been praying for too. If this podcast is helpful to you, follow or subscribe on your favorite podcasting app to help other women find it. You can also subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. While you're there, comment, give it a 5-star rating. That'll help bump us up in the algorithm. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed on YouTube or other places and commented and given us 5-star reviews, because that's the #1 way to get the word out to other women about this. If you've already purchased a copy of my book, Trauma Mama Husband Drama, from Amazon, please circle back and give it a 5-star rating. A lot of women are searching for books to figure out what to do about their husband, and rating Trauma Mama on Amazon will help them find this podcast, which is free to everyone. And of course, your generous donations keep this podcast going. Go to btr.org, scroll to the bottom, and click on Support the Podcast. And until next week, stay safe out there.